Well, hello. I'm back on the road again. This is the East River Road, or we're headed toward it anyway. And yes, you can see there the road suddenly changes to scoria as we cross that cattle guard. I'm not sure why it's scoria suddenly, but they use a lot of scoria on the roads around here. And again, the date is way wrong. The battery went dead in my dash cam, and then I didn't realize it till I started filming this video. So it was 2017. It was January. It was not this time, but it was very end of January anyway. So, anyway, you might have noticed a title of some sort at the beginning of this video. I had planned to make this video one of those, well, this is why I moved to North Dakota and left Pennsylvania videos, but then I ran into something this week that set me off, so I'm going to talk about that instead. So, I'm sure you've figured out by now that there's no love lost between me and this whole creationism thing. I ran into, I do have a Twitter account. I almost never tweet. Once in a while, that's it. And nothing very interesting or insightful, and I don't follow Twitter, and, I'll get on Twitter like once every couple of months. But somehow, I got on a list. I don't know if the little Creation Museum is looking for people like me or how I ended up on this damn list, but anyway, I get an email every day from Twitter now that lists what's up and all that. And they list, it's always a whole bunch of Ken Ham Answers in Genesis garbage. So I don't know how I got this list, but I did. And all the time, Ark Encounter shared, making of an Ark. Start planning your trip now to see all of our impressive dioramas. But in that same email, there was a cartoon. It shows, apparently, Answers in Genesis has a whole bunch of cartoons they do, and a whole section on them. What the heck, they're amusing. I'll put a link down there. But anyway, this particular cartoon's a guy standing, somewhere with palm trees and a lake and mountains, and he says, "If you're real, show me a sign." And clouds, moon and stars, the sun rises, and then in the sun rising when he goes, "I'm waiting." Oh, so nailed it, I guess. I don't know. Since I can't read the whole thing right here, let me just click to the website. What the heck? Let's give him another click. That'll excite him. Oh, look, everybody listens to me, even though I'm an idiot. Whoops. Okay, I can't quite see the whole... Oh, there we go. Now I can see it. It's right in the damaged part of my screen, so let me move it down. For since the creation of the world, God's invisible attributes, his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood through what has been made, so that they are without excuse. Romans 1:20. So apparently, if the sun rises, God... Now, that's a silly argument for God. I don't care if you're religious or not. I mean, if you're religious, the whole argument is faith. And so, yeah. But anyway, I get this Ken Ham stuff all the time, and he's been on a tear lately. I was just reading, Hemant Mehta actually had an article about this post he had. I didn't see it, so I guess that's good. But here's a good one. I'll provide the link again. It'd be fun to go to the page, but I'll just give you the link, so he may take it down, who knows. Christians are happy to teach children regarding various views of origins, but atheists want children taught naturalism to the exclusion of all others. What? Atheists are so insecure they don't want anyone seeing nativity scenes, crosses, etc., as they don't want people to think for themselves. My children know more about evolution than most evolutionists. We're not afraid to teach them about how to understand different views. Atheists are afraid to let people be taught to think critically about origins, as people would then understand evolution's a religion. They can't have their belief critically analyzed, so they legislated to protect it in public schools. That's a Facebook post by Ken Ham. Let's see if there's a date on it. February 24th at 3 a.m. What the hell is he doing up at 3 a.m.? Maybe he can't sleep because he's feeling guilty about misleading people. Or maybe he's scared that people see through him. I don't know. Anyway, sorry, I'm drinking coffee and I shouldn't do that while I'm trying to talk because it went down the wrong pipe there. Anyway, he's there's so many emotions running through me right now just in rereading that. It's just so idiotic. But let me start at the beginning. Christians are happy to teach children regarding various views of origins, but atheists want children taught naturalism to the exclusion of all others. So, which creation story are we teaching? Are we going to do the Hindu creation story? Are we going to talk about any other religions? Or is it the Christian one he means? Well, we all know the answer to that. So why are we... and this naturalism thing, we want to... and most Christians, by the way, also want this, so this guy's wrong about that too. We'd like to teach our children maybe about the real world, how to evaluate evidence, how to believe things based on evidence, how to, when you form your beliefs, don't form them in total contradiction to evidence. Let's see. Atheists are so insecure that, the totally off on another topic here. So it's quite the post. Atheists are so insecure they don't want anyone seeing nativity scenes, crosses, etc., as they don't want people to think for themselves. No. Atheists don't care if you put up a nativity scene at your church or at your house. They don't want, the local city to put up a nativity scene. Let's not have our public school teacher putting crosses on the wall. And it has nothing to do with thinking for themselves. He just totally made that one up. My children know more about evolution than most evolutionists. Really? So first of all, what is an evolutionist? But second of all, really? Do they actually understand evolution, or your weird, twisted little interpretation of evolution that you use for propaganda purposes as a straw man in your museum? You can see those down in the comments below it, because I think I'm going to visit some of the comments too. It's kind of fun. We're not afraid to teach them how to understand different views. Yeah. No, you are afraid of that. That's the whole point of this creation museum, is to get there. And remember I said Shackles on the Brain is my title? That's the whole point of this creation museum. Teach kids before they have those critical reasoning faculties to believe in this creationist garbage. Not the old earth creationism. Not, God did it through evolution, but honest to God, 7-day literal creation 6,000 years ago. And if they get shackled that way early, then they won't develop the critical thinking skills they need to escape it. Because, golly, they might start questioning something else. We can't have that. So, yeah, you are afraid to teach them. What you do is you teach them why evolution is wrong. That's what you do. And you do that by creating a straw man version of evolution, not real evolution. Oh, where's the transitional forms? Everywhere. They're all transitional forms. You're a transitional form. And I'm not going to fall into the gutter. It's not a slam at his appearance. We're all transitional forms. It's like, when did I turn from a baby to an adult? Where's the transitional form? You put up a photograph of me taken every day for the last 41 years, because yes, I'm 41 years old, and you will see no one day where it's like, oh, there's the day he changed. In fact, you'll see very little change from one day to the next. And that's kind of how evolution works. So they'll pull up, this is a different group of young earth creationists. This is the Ray Comfort, Kirk Cameron group. But they'll pull up like, well, have you seen a crocoduck? And they have an artist that's done Photoshop on a crocodile and a duck. I mean, it's kind of cute, but it doesn't actually, that's not what a transitional form is. And his whole, my children know more about evolution, again, is it your straw man evolution or real evolution? Because one of the things these people like to do, and this is why people like Betsy DeVos are so scary, is they want these kids in private schools, creationist schools, or homeschooled, where they're never exposed to other views and, critical thinking outside of carefully approved thinking. And so you're not teaching them to think, well, okay, how to understand different views? Wrong. You're teaching your children to understand that different views are wrong and only yours is right. Atheists are afraid to let people be taught to think critically about origins, as people would then understand evolution's a religion. It is not a religion. We think critically about origins all the time. The basic theory of evolution from Charles Darwin has been modified quite a bit since then in the light of new evidence, and that's how scientific theories work. The atomic theory has been modified a lot from Democritus's original ideas back in the BC years. Evidence, that's how we think scientifically. As far as being a religion, no. Religion is something you believe on faith, not based on evidence. They can't have their, last sentence, they can't have their belief critically analyzed, so they legislate to protect it in public schools. Well, funny about that, South Dakota just almost had a disaster where they tried Senate Bill 55. Look it up. I've got the link down below. Senate Bill 55 was a sneaky way to inject creationism or intelligent design into the classroom, because they've gotten smarter. Now they know that they can't outright do it. So it's giving teachers the freedom to question science. I probably should have written a script for this. I'm going to let emotion get the better of me. But no, what we legislate is to keep your bullshit, sir, I swore, keep your bullshit out of our schools. That's what we do. That's what we legislate. Because one is based on evidence. That would be the evolution, Big Bang theory, all of that. Yours is not based on evidence. Now, yeah, your little straw man of evolution is easy to knock down, but you, Ken Ham, debated Bill Nye, who's not even a real scientist, and lost to him in the debate. In front of a Ken Ham friendly audience, you lost in that debate. People aren't going to your little creation museum and your little Ark encounter because more and more Americans are opening their minds and learning to think critically, learning to think about evidence, and they know you're a nut. All right, so let me look at a couple of the comments here because this isn't really meant to be that deep. So I like Ty Kinney. He's the very first comment here. I bet Ty Kinney's another one that gets these weird emails from Ken Ham all the time. What a silly post. Science and history should be taught as science and history. Religion, mythology are different classes. Yes! Nailed it! 91 replies to this. 77 likes. Now it's 78. I'll play the social media game. Why not? Okay, and just pulling one of the random comments at random underneath him. Where did you get a degree from that told you a theory required facts? A theory is a hypothesis or an idea. It is not a proven fact. Even many secular scientists are now debunking evolution, except he calls it evolution. Ooh, sneaky. There is no evidence for evolution. Where are the millions of transformational fossils? There are none. Not even one has been found. The dinosaurs show up in the fossils as dinosaurs, and they go out of the record exactly the same. Evolution is no more than a state-protected religion. Wow. So there's somebody who doesn't know what a theory is. I think it could, you could have some fun debating these people, but it's really, you're just banging your head against the wall with these people because they are so close-minded and ignorant. Here we go. Lena Emo. Oh, her kids know a lot about evolution too. An evolutionist will not debate a creationist, they always lose. My children have been taught to use their minds and think through things for themselves. They have shut down many evolutionists with truth. One of the things, you can find clips of it on YouTube. Ken Ham teaches kids, he gets them young to say, "Were you there?" whenever they're presented with evolution evidence or any discussion of how life originated. And, my response to that, if they're going to talk about their little Bible, were you there? There is evidence for the evolution. There's a lot of evidence that some of the stuff in the Bible never even happened. Like, that whole bit about how Jesus, Mary, and Joseph had to escape Israel because King Herod was killing all the boys. That never happened. No evidence for it. No evidence for a Jesus either, by the way, but that's, kind of beside the point because he could very well have existed and all this myth was built around just an ordinary revolutionary because they were around then. Yeah, it's quite a time in Israel's history. It's worth reading about. That whole, the Israelites wandering from Egypt to back home in the desert for, what was it? How many years? 40 years? I forget how many. I don't care. Anyway, well, first of all, what a bunch of idiots. They got that lost. But second of all, no evidence for it. No evidence that they were ever, as a nation, enslaved in Egypt. No records, because the Egyptians did keep records. No evidence of, a worldwide flood. No evidence that the Israelites were slaves there. No evidence of all the plagues. And if we want to talk about the plagues, we have to talk about how there used to be magic in the world because the magicians or whatever in the Pharaoh's court are able to make snakes out of their wands or whatever it was. And then Moses was able to eat whatever animals they made by magic because he had better magic. Whole bunch of stuff in the Bible. No, none of the civilizations ever mentioned a worldwide flood. So, and I didn't research all that because that wasn't where I was planning to head with this. But, I just, look in the mirror first. Oh, here's one. When I was an evolutionist, I thought, since there is no God and we are here, evolution must be true. So with that mentality, losing a debate only convinces the evolutionist not that he is in error, but only that his arguments are inferior to support what he believes is a self-evident truth. What convinced me was when I accepted that God was a possibility. After that, the superior arguments were just that, superior. Whoa, 35 likes. Well, you're not getting 36, not out of this guy. So, again, no evidence. That's the problem. And that's, again, what scares me. Ken Ham may be proud of himself because he happens to have been born to believe in the one true God and all that, but why does he? What if he'd been born in Saudi Arabia? Would he have the same religious views? What if he'd been born a Hindu? Would he have the same religious views? Well, of course not. And that's one of the things that is important to realize, and it's one of those shackles where you're brought up and how you're brought up has a lot to do with who you become. If you're brought up in a Christian household, guess what religion you're probably going to be. If you're brought up in an atheist household, guess what? You're probably going to be an atheist. If you're brought up in a society that's largely atheist, you're going to be probably an atheist. If you're brought up in a Christian society, you'll be Christian. You're brought up in a Republican household, guess what? You'll probably be a Republican. It's a shackle, And we have them. It's just realizing, why do I hold these views? As a child, you just kind of accept, oh, that's the way it is. And I better accept it because that's how things are. And you get older and you learn to think for yourself. But, that's... So he doesn't get a special prize for being Christian. And he's Christian because he's brought up there. There's room, I suppose, for the argument that there is a God, and all these different religions are just different ways of interpreting him or her or whatever it's supposed to be. But, evidence. This religion is not on the same playing field as science because there's no evidence. And I guess that's what really bothers me and why Ken Ham can get under my skin, because he's preying on children who aren't old enough and mature enough to realize that it's nonsense. And the adults believe it. Children eventually figure out Santa Claus, but they don't figure out when people like Ken Ham are lying to them. And, I wonder, can he truly be that delusional that he believes all this? Makes a lot of money off of all this. And that $100 million where it came in handy from state funds to build his Ark Encounter Museum. I mean, ugh. So let me pause for a second because I'm starting to get worked up. Hey, that was a 21.6-minute rant. I'm going to just hit a couple other comments here. David Walters, says, painting people with broad brushstrokes labels like atheists only shuts down dialogue. You don't know that every atheist believes what you're claiming or refuses to teach your children the ways you're claiming. It's irresponsible to suggest otherwise. And frankly, as a Christian, I think it reflects poorly on those of us who follow Christ but refuse to engage in label shaming. The world isn't black and white, and you shouldn't cast it as such. When I'm talking about Ken Ham, that's an important thing to remember. He does not represent the majority of Christians. And what he does is he misrepresents them to a lot of people who believe that's how Christians are. That Christians are automatically that pig ignorant. Some of the comments underneath Mr. Walters. Oh, okay, here we go. Kathy Clark. You could be right, but I've yet to meet an atheist who doesn't call God, his word, and creation a fairy tale. Now, unbelievers are a different story. Most of them would call themselves agnostic and question the whole evolution creation theory. What? The atheists I talk to have one agenda: to keep Christians from talking about a God the atheists don't believe in. They spend their time taking the God they don't believe in out of schools, off public property, and off buildings, etc. Yes, they do. Because it doesn't belong there. Let's see. And he responds to... that's another top... Let's go to somebody new. That actually was a pretty good topic. Here we go. David Parks. It's not insecurity. It's not wanting our kids exposed to lies and you're afraid to teach new views. That's why you indoctrinate them with beliefs for which there is no evidence. And I see him coming up to close of the video clips I selected. So you might have noticed a lot of pulling off. I actually did film some footage walking, and I got out of the car and walked around. It was, I edited out that whole parked there bit while I walked around. But I may edit that all together at some point. I don't know. It wasn't that well thought out, but I'll probably do something with it. But anyway, so this whole video, the whole point was just because Ken Ham made me mad, and I didn't go into science, or into teaching, I should say, because I hate kids. I went into teaching because I like kids. I like being able to help my country become a better country. I like the idea that I can make lives better by teaching people how to think. I like the idea of expanding knowledge and defeating ignorance. I like seeing the develop and learn to think for themselves and based on evidence. And yeah, at the teenage level, that can get really annoying sometimes because they push back, and that's part of forming their own identity. But then I see people like Kent Ham who are trying to drag us back into the Dark Ages over an interpretation of a 2,000-year-old book that wasn't even a book back then. Get into the history of the Bible sometime. That's interesting, how it all came to be. And his interpretation of it that most believers in that religion don't even accept. We have people, like in South Dakota, Senate Bill 55, trying to make this medieval interpretation, and it is medieval, law. And if you don't believe me, look at Texas, look at Arkansas and Mississippi. I'll put some links for all that down there too. My home state, Pennsylvania, Dover. Look up Dover, Pennsylvania, and they went to court over teaching creationism in their school. And to their credit, the science teachers in that school stood up to the school board that wanted this creationist garbage taught to their students. And, the way they do it, nowadays, schools don't try and actually inject creationism in, because that's religious. And even the most redneck, ultra-conservative religious judge is going to say, yeah, that's churchy. So what they do is they try and sneak it in other ways by undermining science. Like they have to read a statement that evolution is just a theory. Kind of like that guy I was quoting earlier who clearly doesn't understand what a theory is. By putting stickers in their biology books. By allowing the teaching of the faults of the theory. Well, okay, it's one thing to question based on evidence. It's quite another to undermine based on lack of understanding. Science all the time looks at faults and problems and says, oh, we need to modify our theory. Just look at how the atomic model evolved over time. And it is a theory, just as much of a theory as evolution. Look at how it evolved over time. That's what scientists do. So what they're trying to do with these laws is allow teachers to say, this evolution stuff I got to teach you because it's what scientists believe, but there are so many problems with this, and then they can pull out answers in Genesis garbage. Now, they can't go on and do the 6-day creationism thing. Like I said, that gets them in trouble. So they have to sneak it in. And that's what scares me. We've got these people trying to... Well, they want power, is what they want. And they do see it slipping away from them because, let's just be honest, I don't care what side of the political aisle you're on, our culture is changing. We are becoming less and less religious. Church attendance is going down. Even the evangelicals and these... Okay, I actually lay some of the blame at the foot of people like Ken Ham because he's creating this stereotype of Christians that has a lot of people saying, oh, that's really not me. But, they're losing their grip. And, one of his worries why he promotes this creationism stuff is because he's afraid that if you start questioning that part of the Bible, you'll start questioning other parts. Well, I think the damn thing does need to be questioned. Because there's a lot of stuff in it that's not true. There's a lot of stuff that's evil. And, it could do with a good editing. But, of course, that'll never happen because whether they know how the Bible came to be or not, They believe it's divine, and so, yeah, we're stuck with it. They don't even notice that, oh, the Catholics have a slightly different Bible than you guys, but whatever. And they seem to be stuck on King James for some reason. And this is turning into a rant about religion. So let me, because I really don't want to add, I pasted on a couple more clips so I could finish this long rant, but what I'm trying to get to is, I don't want a world where we're dominated by a book, by belief, by it's okay if God says it, because we have seen that world. We have seen that world in Christendom, and we can see that world in certain elements of the Muslim world right now. I don't know why I pulled over there. I honestly pulled over real quick and started driving again. I don't know why. Anyway, that world is scary. You know, the Arab culture brought us algebra and saved a lot of the writings from Greece. Brought us science, medicine, while Europe was this pig-ignorant, backward place. And, you know, what's happened to the Arab world since then? Europe had an enlightenment, and a big part of the enlightenment was throwing off the shackles of the church. The church has progressively lost its power as humans have become more civilized. And that scares people like Ken Ham. Because you lose your power, you can't get the state of Kentucky to give you $100 million taxpayer dollars to build your stupid little museum. You don't get people coming to your little churchy thing to pick up your ignorance and learn about it. You don't get to tell people what to do, who they can marry, what gender they can marry. You don't get to do all that when you're not in power. But, I work with young people, and it's not just personal opinion here. The surveys back me up. By the way, I've never been down this road before, so this was all new after this point. That's why I thought it's a good stopping point. Excuse me. I see a lot of potential for the future. What we're seeing is a lot more young people questioning this authority, and that is a good thing. They are rejecting this crazy version of religion. They're rejecting religion overall, but especially this crazy version. It's more science-based. They're more evidence-based. I hope I'm alive to see it when they are old enough to take power. So I thank you for watching, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.